This is going to be the video tutorial for section 4 of the Casey Pouchette bag. This section will cover the top zipper installation and dropping in of the lining. So in front of me are all the pieces that are required for this section. You have your finished exterior of your bag, your finished lining, as well as your number 5 metal or nylon zipper tape with the matching pull. So what I'm going to do is we're going to clear away the two bag portions and we're going to prepare our zipper to place inside the bag. So in front of me I have two zippers. One is a number 5 nylon and one is a number 5 metal. You will need, if you're using a metal zipper, you will need to remove teeth at the very beginning of this zipper. So 1/2 inch is adequate. You then fold this piece down, and I like to hand tack everything to keep it all in place. You want to make sure that that last tooth that you have left on is coming around the corner. You don't want to stop up at the top. So in other words, when you fold this back and around, you don't just want to stop that right there because the pull will go right off. You want to make sure that that last tooth that you've left has rounded that corner to the other side. So this is my nylon zipper, which I'm going to be using, and I have gone ahead and hand tacked these in place. So I folded them around and I've hand tacked them. I like to have my zipper teeth to come a little bit further down and under if I can. So I have now prepared my zipper for the top of my bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this zipper aside and we're going to prepare the top of the bag so that we can install that zipper. So you can see I have my finished prepared bag in front of me, and now I need to add some marks to do what's called a false stitch. You notice that my zipper is closing to the left hand side, so I want my top zipper to close at the left hand side as well. So the tail of my zipper will be to the right side and be tucked down into between the lining and the exterior. That's the side I'm putting my marks on. If you have your zipper closed to the right and you want your top zipper closed to the right, then this would be the end that you would place those marks on. So I've gone ahead and added my marks, as you can see. Those marks are 3/4 inch on either side of that seam. So you've got one here and one here. Now it's very important that when you place these marks on, you're using some kind of pen, marker, or whatever that can be removable. You do not want those marks on there permanently. So be very, very careful with what you're using. You want to do what's called a false stitch. You want to start at that mark right there, and you're going to stitch across the seam all the way over to the other mark. You're going to keep your stitch approximately 1/4 inch down from that top fold. You're not going to back stitch at the beginning or the end, and we're going to pull our threads to the back and tie them off. So I'm going to go to the machine right now and I'm going to do that false stitch and come back, and then we are going to place our double-sided tape on the interior and get everything prepared to add the zipper and the drop-in lining. So I've now completed my false stitch. As you can see, from mark to mark, I have removed my marks. I have pulled the threads to the back and tied off these threads. I've left myself a little longer tail so I can just make sure it's tucked down and in. At the opposite end of the seam, you want to place two more marks, 1/2 inch past that seam. So one mark here at 1/2 inch and one mark here at 1/2 inch, just like that. You're now going to add some double-sided tape all the way on the inside of your bag, starting at this one seam. So you're going to have two pieces. You want to start your double-sided tape right there in the middle of your tab. You're going to run it all the way along, aligning it with that raw edge of the fold, all the way around until you get to this other side where the false stitch is, and you're just going to end that tape about a stitch past that knot. So you're actually securing that knot down there as well. You want to do the same thing to the other side. You want to have the tape just past that. You don't have any tape here at all because we're going to be tucking down that tail, and you don't want the tape holding there and holding the pieces together and being in the way, all the way back to this other side. So now I have my zipper up here in front of me. You are going to need to remove the pull off of the zipper. This is the right side of the zipper, so I try to keep that right side up. And we're going to begin by taking this portion, which would be right there at that end, and applying it to the back of this where the double-sided tape is. So I'm just going to pull away a little bit of that double-sided tape, not a lot, just a little bit, and I'm going to align that tooth edge right there with that mark, that 1/2 inch mark. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to place that just like that. And I want, so you can see where that is, I want the teeth, my teeth, to be approximately anywhere from about 1/8 of an inch from that fold, so that edge of that tooth down here down. And I'm going to go along and I'm just going to kind of tug on this zipper a bit and make sure that it's nice and tight, and I want to keep everything nice and even. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove some of the tape all the way down to the end, get rid of that tape, and again pull a little bit on that zipper, making sure that it's all nice and even between that fold and the edge of the teeth, all the way down to the end. And if you have to do any adjustments, you can just pull that zipper away from the tape and do it all the way down to that end right there. And I will add a clip. I know the double-sided tape is holding it, but I'll just add a clip there anyway, just so that I can take a really good look at how well I have placed that zipper in. I'm going to look at it from the inside. So you can see where the edge of that tape is. You should be no more than 1/8 of an inch past that fold. If you are, you run the risk of missing your zipper. So make sure that you are far enough down, and but not too far down that you're going to get this zipper caught. But basically, you should be approximately 1/4 of an inch from the top of the teeth to the fold, and 1/8 of an inch from the fold to the bottom of your teeth. So if everything's set, there's one area here I don't like, so I'm just going to redo it just like that. Now you're going to go ahead and you're going to do the same thing to the other side, pulling away that tape and aligning this portion to that 1/2 inch mark, and all the way down to the other end, just like you did the first side. So there you can see I have completed that zipper. Now I'm going to add another clip here at the top, at that end, and another clip at this end as well, just to secure everything in place. So you can see what it would look like from the inside. So, and the outside, there is your ends right here, and your tails are kind of crossed over, there we go, at the back end, just like that. Now if you want, you can actually remove that clip, put your zipper pull back on, and test to see exactly how well it looks, if everything is nice and even. I'm just going to go ahead, I'm just going to pull that clip off of there and off of here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to now retrieve my lining. This is the lining piece, and I'm going to turn this bag to the side. I want my pocket on my interior lining to be on the back wall of my bag. So I'm going to flip that over this way. I'm now going to insert my lining into place. So I'm just going to kind of give it a bit of a fold, open that bag up, and place that lining inside. You're going to have wrong sides together throughout the whole bag. So I'm just going to take my hand in between here, and I'm just going to give it a push down and make sure everything is into the corner nice and even. Smooth that out just like that, and you can see now my lining has been dropped inside that piece. I'm going to begin at the end where my zipper teeth have folded over. I'm going to align that seam of my lining with the seam of my exterior. Now, yes, your tab is in the way, but you can actually, if you want, you can take and place a mark right there so you know where it is, or you can just kind of eyeball it back and forth. What you want to do is make sure that that seam is lined up. That seam is lined up with that seam, and the top fold of your lining is even with the top fold of your exterior. I then kind of push around that corner a little bit so that I'm kind of capping around that tab, and I'm going to place a clip to hold that down. And then I'm going to go ahead and I am actually going to work one side at a time. So if you want, you can work your center right there in the middle first, and you just kind of place that down. Now, you did have some double-sided tape that kind of is left exposed down here at the bottom, and that might give you enough to hold it, but generally I will put a clip there first, just like that. And what you want to do is make sure that this fold is even with this fold, and you are working blind. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a tip that will help you align everything in place. These are my pins, and I am going to place a pin along that top edge right there, that folded edge, through the zipper tape, so it comes through the other side of the tape. I'm going to do that about every inch, maybe inch and a half, all the way along, aligning the top fold. Let me get a better pin, that one wasn't as good. And I'm just going to go to here. So you can see I've aligned the pins with the top of the fold. From the inside, you can see the pins are coming through. Now that gives me a guide to work with when I am placing this fold. So what I want to make sure is this top fold is aligned evenly with the top of that pin. So once that is in place, I'm going to put another clip there, and I'm going to pull that pin out. Same here. I'm going to place that tight, pull the pin out, add a clip. Same with this one right here. Oh, my pin came off. Let me get it back through. I'm going to make sure that that is nice and even. Place that right, and then same thing all the way until you get to that middle spot right there. So what you've done is you have aligned that top edge with that top edge, even though the zipper is in the way. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to go all the way down to this other end. And when you get to this area right here, where that false stitch is, that's where you're going to add a clip. So you want to bring your tail kind of straight over, just holding it in place, and then aligning up that center and putting a clip just right there at the end. So this is nothing is holding in there. It's just kind of, you're getting that alignment. You want to do the same thing with the pin along this side, and then you're going to do the same thing on this side so that everything is aligned and clipped in place. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do all of the lining portion just as I showed you. So you can see everything is all clipped in place. My lining is set in and the clips along the top are all done. I've put a fair amount of them. At the end where your false stitches, you will see your tail is kind of angling up a bit, and that's exactly the way it should be. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the machine and we're going to secure the lining to the exterior of the bag by top stitching all the way around. Now it was key for you to make sure that that top of that lining was even with that top of your exterior, because you are actually sewing blind and you do not want to miss that lining. What we're going to do is we're going to begin at the end of that false stitch and we're going to stitch all the way across around, crossing over that seam at that side, coming along the other side until you reach that false stitch on the opposite side of where you began. You're not going to backstitch at the beginning or the end, and we're going to pull the threads to the back and then bury them down between the two. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the machine now and I'm going to do my stitching to secure everything in place. Now, before we do that though, if you have a cylinder arm, now's the time to take the table off, and it's easier for you to do this with a cylinder arm. If you have a flat bed, you can easily just kind of maneuver that bag out of the way by pushing that bottom spot away. Because this is a soft bag, you can easily do that. You do not want to be stitching from the inside out. You want to begin your stitching on the exterior piece only. So now I'm going to go to the machine and we're going to begin our top stitching. Okay, you can see I'm at my cylinder machine right here, and this is my bag, and because I have a cylinder, it makes it easier for me to stitch this. But once again, as I said, if you're using a flat bed, you can just kind of tuck it out and out under the way. You want to begin your stitching right there at that mark. Now I have clipped this tail of that zipper back and out of the way because it's in my way at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift my pressure foot, and I'm just going to remove this last clip right here, grab hold of my threads, and I am going to just kind of put those threads down to the side, and I am going to place that needle, if I can get there we go, clear this out, that needle exactly in that position where I had left my last stitch. So right down and in there. I'm going to grab my tails and I am going to align my edge foot with that fold. So depending on what you are using as a guide, whether you're 1/4 inch foot or not, you want to do exactly the same as what you did on your false stitch. So I'm going to begin by stitching along there, making sure everything looks good. And I'm going to continue all the way around. Every once in a while, I will check to make sure that I have caught my lining. So I'm going to go along, and I'm going to just check along to see I have caught my lining just beautifully. So I'm going to continue all the way around until I reach the other side. Now I've reached the other end, and I want to make sure that I unclip that tail and get it out of the way. And I'm just going to bring that down so that that tail is nice and straight. Continue until I get to this hole right here, and I'm going to then take the bag out of the machine and we'll go back to the table and we will tie off the threads and tuck them down. So here is the bag back from the machine, all completed. You can see the lining, the stitching on the lining on both sides is just perfect. I've caught everywhere all the way along. I have pulled my threads to the inside of my lining bag, but I have not tied them off just as yet. I have added the pull on, and what I want to do is I want to make sure that I am clearing everything in the lining as well as the exterior of the bag, because if I have not, I may have to go back and redo this, which means taking some of that stitching out. And yes, it can happen, especially if you have missed here as well. So what I'm going to do is I've put this pull on, and I'm going to test to make sure that everything is right. So you can see that is just perfect. Everything fits great. And now what I'm going to do is open that back up, and I'm actually just going to place a clip at the end so that I do not pull my pull off too far, because it's actually perfect. So what we're going to do is you've pulled those threads to the inside of that lining. Now what you need to do is you need to feed them between the lining and the exterior on this side of the zipper, and you want to tie a very tight knot. So I'm just going to feed the threads into the end of this doll needle, which I have, and it's a perfect needle for this. I can get threaded just like that, and I'm going to feed in that last hole right in between, right there, coming through and pulling, tugging. But if you're using a regular thread, don't tug too hard because you could break your thread. This is nylon thread, so it withstands a fair amount of tugging. I'm going to knot this very tight. I want it really tight. Quite a few knots. And once I'm done this side, I'm going to do the other side. So as you can see, I have knotted both of these threads in between. I'm just going to snip off, leave myself a little bit of a tail, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck those threads down and in between the lining and the exterior. Now if you need to use some needle nose pliers or something to push it further down, then go right ahead. Doesn't seem to want to be going down there. Come on, you get down there. There we go. Okay, it's down now. So now what you want to do is you want to add, I'm just going to close this bag, and you want to add some double-sided tape to the wrong side of that zipper, because you want to form a point to tuck it down in between the lining and the exterior. So I'm just going to add a little bit of tape just along this back area right here. Smooth that out. Pull the paper off. Oops, I took the whole thing off. Let's put that back on. On you. There we go. And see if I can get this so that's on a good angle. I want to fold this over and then fold this over. So I'm actually forming a point at the end of my zipper. I'm just going to open this up a little bit, and you can see that there is a hole between this lining and the exterior. I'm going to tuck the end of this down inside there, close off that zipper a little bit more, tuck it, make sure that my lining is in front of that zipper, and tuck that down. And this should take a little bit of finagling to get it exactly where you want it to be. Let's see what it looks like from the front. This is what you want it to look like, just like that. So you just want to play around with that zipper a little bit to make sure that it's nice and even on that edge. And then what you're going to do is you're going to place some glue. I'm using this fabric glue way down and inside. So this helps if you have a long nose on your glue. And I'm just going to squeeze some down inside there, just like that. And I want that to set in place. Now if you wish, once that's dry, you can open that up and put some more glue on the inside of that lining as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push on that until it's set well in there, just like that. And I'm going to close that up. If you wish, you can actually add clips on here, but you have to be very, very careful. This particular vinyl marks easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that that is pressed well against there, and I'm going to leave that so that it dries. Now sometimes it may take overnight, sometimes it just may take a few hours, but basically this is what your bag should now look like. Your zipper is tucked down and inside. Your tabs are right here ready for your crossbody strap. There's the inside of your bag all completed and ready to go. Your front zipper pocket is all nice and sealed and professional. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this aside and let it dry, and we are going to then move on to section number 5, which is going to be the strap assembly and the completion of the bag.